Okay, well, we're very lucky to have Nilanjan here. He has 15 years of experience in prompt engineering and ChatGPT. So he's going to prepare us all for this world. And is specifically going to help us around the area, I think, of development with ChatGPT and prompt engineering.
Yeah.
So I will hand it off to Nilanjan.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming, guys. So yeah, that's art prompt engineering. This is completely based on the experiments that I'm doing. I don't have 15 years of experience on this. But one of the things that we're going to do at the probably within 10 minutes is we're going to all work together and build a working application end-to-end and deploy and run it. See whether we can do that. So it's not scripted. I don't know how this is going to go. We'll figure it out. We are developers, right? So we'll see how that goes. There is an announcement in here. Obviously, I'm excited about this world and how that evolves our development because my business depends on it. We are running a hackathon on 19th August. If you get excited about stuff that we talk about, the idea is that one day we'll get together all the developers. We will work on a challenge. We'll try to solve it, build an entire working application in a day. Because, hey, we have an AI, right? We should be able to. And solve a real business world problem. There were the prizes and stuff, but more interestingly, the idea is we want to push these tools a little bit and see how far we can take them. All right, so first thing I want to say, is there a way to get rid of the topic? Cool. These tools are not here to replace our jobs. I want to make it very clear. Developers are going to still be there. In fact, I have a very optimistic view of the world. I feel like we're going to need more software developers because there's a fundamental transformation. Lots of things are going to get automated. We need more engineers to solve them. But I do believe the way we build software is going to change. The idea here is to kind of get ready about that. My experience of using prompt engineering almost feels like this. Sometimes it feels like I'm using a command line tool. I give a specific instruction, something comes out. Sometimes it feels like I'm working with an intern, where I have to give lots of guidance and instructions step by step to get things done. So what are you going to be covering here? Because I will try to define this prompt engineering term. Lots of people don't like to call it engineering. Is it engineering? I don't know, but that's what industry has attempted. Because we write formulas in Excel, but we don't call them Excel engineering, really. We're going to learn some basic principles and techniques, some things that we're going to talk about, because lots of people complain about, oh, ChatGPT is stupid. It gives me wrong information, it hallucinates. My experience has been in most of the time, it's based on we are not asking the right question. Then we're gonna take a quick tour of large language models. What are those? There are lots of terms in here. We're gonna give a quick explanation of that. But this is what I'm excited about. We all do kind of agile software development. We understand the concept of iterative development. The world that I want to explore with you guys is iterative prompt development. What it takes to have a conversation with ChatGPT, treat this copilots as a pair programmer, and how can we build with it? I think that's where the power is. And maybe we will take a tour of the open source LLMs out there. This is what I'm very excited about. All right, cool. That sounds good. Ask me lots of questions. We are trying to learn each other. Okay, I know you all use ChatGPT. You might teach me something today, so that'll be awesome. All right, some quick terms in here. Generative AI is kind of an umbrella term used to explain this group of technologies. What essentially means is that it's generating new content. We are mainly focused on text-based content and code, but most of this tool can generate audio, video, images, what have you. Right? GPT-4 is going to have multimodal, where you can give images and it can translate images for you as well. An LLM is a type of AI algorithm. The idea is that it uses deep learning and massive data sets to predict and generate. At the core fundamental level, this guy LLM ChatGPT doesn't understand Java. What it does is that it predicts the next best possible character for you. That's kind of the best idea. Obviously, it's more complicated than that. And GPT, on the other hand, is an architecture. Okay, this is the transformer model that most of the open source model actually uses to implement. Right, you're building a web application using MVC architecture, similar concept. I know Google gets crap about not doing enough, but Google is the one that actually popularized this. They opened this paper called "Attention is All You Need." Is that the classic paper that started all this revolution? So don't bet against Google. They're out there. All right, so what's prompt engineering? Prompt engineering is a new discipline. The idea here is that if language models are full, we are trying to figure out what the API gonna look like. Okay, prompts is a way of interacting with them. They are a very powerful tool. We need to learn their language and figure out how we can interact with them. That's all we're trying to explore here. Prompts have specific sections and patterns in them. So you start with an instruction. I'll give you some simple example. Then you provide context. What's the background? The more context you provide, more useful the answer is going to be. Right? And GPT has how many tokens now? They have a model which can take 32 tokens, literally translation of this 32K words. So that could be your input. Then your specific questions, tell me what to do. Is this, here is a customer feedback review. Tell me what's the sentiment like? Is it positive or negative, right? That's kind of question. And you can say, okay, return that response as JSON or XML for me. Working with having ChatGPT generate JSON responses has been very tricky for me. I don't know whether you got very lucky. Sometimes it does generate invalid JSON. But I have a nice hack for you guys. We can talk about that later. But anyway, that's the concept. You guys know this. I'm going to fly through this. Here, come on. All right, so we're going to talk about two specific techniques here. One technique is probably the most obvious one, right? Clear and specific instructions, right? Again, I think one of the things that we are learning here is, and you will see that when we do iterative prompt engineering here a little bit, it helps if you have a clear idea of what you're looking for. This is another transition that I think we developers have to go through. I think we've been tuned to, don't come to me with questions, come to me with solutions. I think that model is going to disappear because the solution is one prompt away. It's not a big deal anymore. The big deal is that do you have the right question? That's the fundamental difference we're going to transition to slowly. It's going back to asking, what's the difference between class and struct in Java utility is probably not a good thing anymore. Anyway, the second thing we're going to talk about is give model time to think. This has been life-changing for me. Like GPTs are almost like the slackers in a way. They always try to find the quickest way to give you the answer. So sometimes you have to tell GPT, this model says that, oh, don't rush. Think slowly, step by step, and the quality of responses drastically goes up. You can see some examples of that. All right, so anybody using GPT to build application like LLMs? What do you think?
Just a side project where I'm just taking so I play music, so I take like chord information and lyrics, and I was trying to format it in a certain way. So just like a little front end application, a little React application to do that.
Which makes the API call?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
We're actually working on something that's using generative AI to build integration. So we have a integration product, but we have to break things down very specifically. We're going through experiments right now. So things that I think about is like reproducibility. If we were to ever make changes to our prompts and evaluate those and which model is the best. Like lots of different things to understand.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good. So 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 I've also used that as an API. There are lots of interesting features we're building on top of this, for which I would have had to hire a data science team to do this. I just can expose it as an API call. So GPT-4 is obviously the great model out there, but my experience with GPT-4 has been pretty bad. So I went back to GPT 3.5 Turbo because it's faster, its latencies are better, less timeouts. Even though they claim GPT-4 is better, I still think GPT 3.5 is much better in terms of building applications on top of it. Another thing that we're going to see some examples of that when you create an instructions is it sticks. We copy paste a bunch of stuff in the prompt, right? It always helps if you have specific delimiters to the text so that the model knows that, okay, here is the input coming in. Here's the instruction section, here's the input coming in. To give you an example, let's move to the
When you say use the tag to the post, is that something you've specified to ChatGPT?
I'll show you an example.
Okay.
All right, this is going to be tricky, but we'll try. Since this is going to be ChatGPT based, can you guys read stuff here? We're going to be spending lots of time in this tool here. Okay, cool. All right, so I have some examples that I'm going to copy paste in here. Again, the later part we're going to creatively build this. So summarization example. Let me take this. Summarization is probably the greatest thing that it has done. I don't know how many of you read blogs. I don't read blogs anymore if it's more than 2 paragraphs. What I do is that copy the blog content, paste it in GPT, and just summarize it for me. Summarization is one of the beautiful things that it does for you. So here is an example of what I was talking about. You asked the question. So it's saying that what I get the specific instruction. This is my instruction. Your task is to generate. I always liked giving instruction at the beginning, then I don't know which format you guys use. Typically, this works better for me. So we got a product review for an e-commerce site. Summarize the review below, delimited by triple quote in at most 30 words. Let's read the content in here and give me the summarization of this. Pretty easy. Let's take one more example, then we're going to be moving to something interesting here. Inferring. We still have teams doing this for us. So what we're doing is that we got a product review in here, and we can build lots of automations on top of that, obviously. Here we are asking is, what's the sentiment of the product review? Review is delimited triple quote. It's the sentiment of the product review is positive, right? It almost is sentiment analysis. Now imagine if I'm a customer support, I can build workflow on top of that. I could have an instruction if, in the next line, if the sentiment is positive, generate a customer service thank you email signed by this. Else, if it's negative, do this. I can type all that stuff in an instruction right here.
So the basic question. The question is, what's the sentiment of the following product? It's your question, am I right? And then you are saying that this is my delimiters, you know. Then the answer is short. First 2 lines are your input, followed by the passage that needs to be summarized.
Yeah.
That's the format you are following, I think. So,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So it looks like a document to me, or is it a UI interaction? Is the prompt, or I'm just trying to understand the context of it. I'm the first time looking at this website. Okay, safe disclaimer.
Oh, where you have been so long, man. All right, so I'm using my apologies. I'm going to assume lots of things in here. So I went to ChatGPT's website.
Right, got it.
Okay, this is their chat interface.
Right.
Here in the same message, I'm typing in my my prompts. Prompt consists of instructions, inputs, and I don't have any output indicators here. I could have said, generate this output in a JSON response. I didn't. That's why it gave me a text.
Okay.
This is the output of the model, ChatGPT.
So that is a text or JSON you would configure somewhere. That's how it's my prompt looks like a pre-format, or the settings go.
trickle code, I could say generate the response in following JSON format as okay response as a JSON object with following fields. Fields. CD.
Is it where the reusability of it is?
So we generate JSON output saying sentiment is a field that answers.
But is it the like showing the template part versus what's the thing that's dynamic? Like what you're explaining is the things outside of the triple quote are the things you use every time to get that information.
So if I'm doing an API, am I doing an API? This is my variable. This is my prompt instruction.
Yeah, so if you were to write an application, what your user would create is what's in the triple quotes.
That's correct. I'm not, but we're gonna completely interacting with this. Like if you are interested, I can show the Python API also. In API, we will set this. If you're writing an API behind this, this will come as a function parameter for you when you make the API call in the system prompt, you will specify this. You will get an input. Here is a couple of things.
This is a Java user group, no Python.
Okay.
Just
Python is the new Java. Does that make sense?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
All right. So so yeah, there are lots of stuff in here, but I think you guys can get it. I can share that.
Even more basic question. You have to register yourself, I believe so, into this website, and then some of the things are prohibited from for nationwide. So is it still possible to within an organization to get out of the firewall and reach out to this one? And how do you configure this to get into the conversational mode?
Any regulated company, I would be careful.
Nationwide, you have to submit a form.
Okay, she knows. Okay, she
You
knows.
just submit a form at Nationwide.
Okay, all right.
There are,
With your Google ID password.
I don't know the nationwide policy, so you'd be better for that. But in terms of like ChatGPT, there are settings that you can tell it not to train on your data. It's in your user profile.
Yeah.
And it will remember your chats along the left for 30 days, but it won't train on them, and then they go away. But that's just with ChatGPT. If you're actually using the OpenAI API, it doesn't train on that data because you're paying for that use of that API per request. There's a number of tokens. So they're not training on that data if you're using the API, but they are on that unless you tell them not to.
Okay.
If you're giving it proprietary information, I'd be careful.
Yeah, correct.
Got it.
In general.
Yep.
Notice
But I
didn't put a social security number in there.
Bank account, credit card number.
The night's not over.
Oh.
It's notoriously bad at numbers anyway, so.
Yeah, I mean, but I'm hearing more and more organizations are opening up too. I mean, it's becoming very common that companies now hiring developers and giving them GitHub Copilot, for example.
Yeah.
I do subscribe. I have the Plus account. I pay $20 every month. This is the best $20 I ever spent, to be honest. Just extending that idea a little bit, the same idea in here.
Sorry, what does the $20 give you?
Better, I think it removes the limitation on number of prompts you can access per number of requests you can make. I get code interpreter. I don't know, GPT-4 is available to free accounts. I don't
It's
have
not.
access
You
to
have to
the.
pay.
Huh?
You have to pay for 4.
So I'm using the GPT-4 here. Is you see at the top, that's only available for the beta.
Yeah, there's other beta features too, like functions and
Yeah,
plugins.
it's not.
There's-
All right, this is what I was talking about, kind of building on that idea a little bit. This is the entire prompt in here. So I'm saying sometimes when you work with GPT, it's okay to give that model a role. We do that very common in interaction. Pretend you are this, okay? So here I'm saying you are a customer service AI expert, okay? This is about setting the context. This triggers how it looks at, how it interprets your inputs, okay? Then your task is to send an email reply to a valid customer. Now I'm putting a logic in there. Given the customer email delimited by triple quotes in here, generate the reply to thank you to the customer for their review. Now I'm putting conditions in here. If the sentiment is positive and neutral, thank you then for their review. If the sentiment is negative, apologize and suggest that they should contact their customer service. Okay, to make sure that you can do lots of stuff in here, the tone and set. This is interesting because so sometimes I send out cold outreach email to investors, say, are you interested? So I do that. I put some instructions like this, and then I say, write it like as if Paul Graham is writing. Paul Graham is a big thinker and YC founder. The quality gets drastically improved. Actually, writes you as Paul Graham is writing the email.
So the context setting and then the setting the expectations and the guidelines. Usually follows at an order in which there was mentioned specifically.
Yeah, this order is what I think works better. Other way also going to work. The quality is better here. Here, all the instruction, context, and output is set in here. Then actually the input comes in. All right, cool. Let's switch to the deck. Let's do some fun. Let's have some fun here. All right, so we talked about this. We went through this. We saw some examples. Give model time to think. This is exactly what he was talking about. The GPT is not really great at math. Okay. Now I wanted to do it live, but the prompt that failed last week is actually working today. So it's fascinating how fast these things are learning, but I did have saved the history, which I'll show you to here. All right, this is a question I asked, how to write 12,1212 as a number. Okay. To write, it actually gave me this, which is not the right answer. So I said, shouldn't it be 13212? Apologies for the confusion. That's what he was talking about. His apologies confused. Oh, thank you for catching. How to write? Then I'm asking again. To give me again the same answer. Then this is what I was talking about. Give model time to think. This is key. If you think your responses are not good, just add this exact line at the bottom of your prompt. Think about it step by step. This is a trick and hack you can use for GPT to, okay, allow model to be. Now look at what he's doing. Now he's actually breaking down the problem the way it should do. You're right, apologize my previous. Let's break down step by step. It actually figured it out. 1212, now he's adding those numbers. Now it actually got the correct answer.
But that's a good question, right? It's not
It's
obvious.
a great question.
It's not 13,000. It's just 12,112. You are okay. It's not straightforward.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, that's why. That's why if you add that hack to the again, it's kind of lazy. It's optimized for take shortcuts. But he's saying don't take shortcut. Work the problem out.
Not sure if you'll get to this, but one thing that's very similar to this is if you ask it to ask you clarifying questions before it doesn't even work. I found that to be very helpful as well.
Oh, I'm getting there, man.
Okay,
I'm getting there. That's the best part. All right, cool. Any more questions before we actually build something with this? Question? All right, model to think, time to think. We go through some. All right, we talked about what a large language model is. This is kind of interesting. I don't know whether you guys probably know this better than I do. Most of them starts with base LLM, right? This is what I was talking about. This is optimized for predicting what the next character is going to be. Obviously, that's not very useful, right? So what they have done, what actually OpenAI has done, is that it instruction team, right? They add on top of layers. So for an example, what OpenAI has done is that they hired a bunch of developers in Kenya to write code for them so that they can train the model. So one of the things they do is that this is how they have released the model. But like I said, last week that failed, now it's doing better. every time you're prompting, somebody says about training the data, right? They use this RLHF technique to retrain, reinforcement learning. It's actually getting better as you interact with this model. So that's how he's taking it. There is obviously lots of human feedback trainer that are actually tweaking, asking response, figuring out, fixing that response. It's almost like what Google does, right? Fine-tuning the search results. That's exactly it. All right, so OpenAI ChatGPT is not the only player in the block. Obviously, this market is expanding. Claude recently released there was a huge buzz in there. Obviously, Llama recently came out. Facebook made an open source LLM now. So nationwide, for an example, if they're considering, I'm assuming they're considering some other alternative that they can host in their environment. I don't know if anybody's playing with this thing, so, but that's this kind of evolving world right now. All right, cool. Lots of people ask that question, so we're going to spend one slide on that. What's your stand on AGI? Anybody has a point of view on AGI? My view is that we're going to definitely have general intelligence some point soon. I do believe in the world where we're not going to have one AGI, we're going to have multiple AGIs, right? Like I joke around friends, we're just one algorithm away, right? To get to that. Just for everybody's context, when I say AGI, I essentially mean human-like intelligence. So this kind of tools will learn like us, will behave like us, figure out things like we do. It's almost like human. This is what some folks are really scared about, including Elon Musk and others, but it's going to eventually get there, I believe. On the ANI is, on the other hand, is a great example of would be the GitHub Copilot. It's an LLM, but specifically tuned for coding assistance, special purpose. Back in days, we used to call it DSL, domain-specific languages, right? Similar concept. All right, cool. Let's have some iterative prompt development. I don't know about you guys, but I cannot think of a problem at the beginning. I need to walk through the problem. It's like going to the classic point that nobody can write clear requirements, right? Requirements are always vague. And we claim our product managers have no idea what they're asking about, right?
But that's why we're going to keep our jobs, because they're not going to know the right questions.
So we're going to see how iteratively we can walk through. I'm going to sit here. I'm going to need lots of help. Unfortunately, this example would be on JavaScript and HTML. I wanted to do it in Java, but I didn't get time. But if you guys are up for it, we can even start with Java and see how far we can take this.
So does it only generate only Python and JavaScript code?
It will generate whatever you ask.
Right. That's what I'm.
So I will show you one example of
JavaScript and HTML.
I was worried about this. Okay, so what I'm going to show you is an example of. All right, so here is my plan. My plan is we're going to try to generate an app. I have an idea of the app so that we will simplify this. We will take all the code that you will generate blindly, paste that on Replit, which is a runtime environment, and run it and see it live. That's the goal of this exercise. But before we get there, I want to show you another way of doing it. So you might hear this term, it's called one-shot prompt. Okay, here is that prompt looks like. This is one prompt. I'm saying ChatGPT, I cannot do this. I copied from somewhere. I'm not this smart. But here, what I'm saying is that, hey, ChatGPT, create an S3 file browser in graph-based application. It should contain a React frontend with subdirectory and specifying the tree structure. The source code, show me the full source code, separate file, tree component. Essentially, we're building a browser for S3 bucket. We are saying create a package JSON, have the port 9000 as an environment variable. We are also saying create a backend subdirectory with a config file. We are also saying use S3 AWS SDK, but please use the JavaScript version 3. Okay. Responses, credential region, all that bunch of stuff, .NET package. We are also specifying specific NPM packages it should include. And have GPT go to work. Okay. This prompt actually works, guys. If I literally copy this, I will have an S3 browser working through this. Do you guys build application like this? I don't, right? It's not the way we do it. So instead, what we're going to do is I don't know how to, let me paste this and maybe show you guys first. Show you here. This I've learned over multiple iterations, okay? I'm not smart enough to come up with this, but this would be useful. This is truly what amazes me about this power of this tool, okay? So what I'm trying to do here, or we're gonna do here, we're gonna build a movie recommendation system as a JavaScript app, okay? I only have this. Beyond this, I don't know how this is gonna go. We'll work together, okay? What I'm saying is that here's my workflow. This is exactly what he was talking about. I'm using the technical model, give model time to think, okay? I'm going to treat this as if I'm working with a pair programmer. We have this card that we picked from Jira. We are building this. That's the goal. What I'm saying is clear out of the bat. Don't immediately jump to code generation. That's usually a bad idea. That's where people take the code. Oh, GPT is stupid.
So I can find the font my letter.
You probably find this interesting, Griffin.
What is it?
Okay. What I'm doing is, as if going back to the intern, I'm working with a junior programmer here. I said, I'm going to give you requirements, but please ask me questions to clarify the requirement. Second thing I'm going to say is that this has changed the game when I learned this technique. I said, write the pseudocode and check it with me. We're going to bounce ideas, we're going to validate, please understand. Then generate the code. Okay, here is my requirement. Okay, this is the app we want to build here. The data source, we're going to use the TMDB. TMDB is an open source database of all movie data. Okay, they have an API. To my pleasant surprise, GPT actually knew about this API. I have no idea about this API. It will figure that out for me. We're going to have user preference. The way I'm thinking about this app is a classic app, right? We're going to have some sort of header in here. I am thinking we're going to have a sidebar. Since we're doing a movie recommendation, we're going to put some sort of date range in here. And then I'm thinking we're going to put some genres, okay? Action, comedy, you get the idea, right? Then what I'm thinking we should do is that there's a header in here. So movie recommendation. And when a user clicks this, I want all the action movies that's currently playing in theater show up here. That's the goal. Yeah, cool. All right, okay. So user preference, there will be a sidebar with common movie genres. You can select and filter results. Recommendation algorithm, there are multiple out there. We're just going to use this, show the most popular movies and TV shows. Okay. User interface, UI should be, I'm terrible at user interface in here. We need to figure out which framework we should use. So think about it. UI should be divided in 3 sections: top header, title. There should be a left sidebar. We talked about it, user preferences. And it should show all the possible movies, genres, data ranges, selections on the right. I'm also specifying what the display looks like. I'm saying movie should have movie poster, name, release date, rating. If you don't like it, we're going to prompt and change it. Okay, we'll see how that goes. Functionality scope allow users to rate the movie. Oh, I forgot about that. We're going to have some sort of rating system underneath it. Technology stack, we could pick Java here also. I don't know how that's going to go, but I have done this before with HTML and vanilla JavaScript. So no React, Angular stuff. Just going to keep it plain and simple. It's cool. Let's go. All right, so it's trying to clarify a couple of things here. Let's see what questions they have. Just get it done.
Conversation thread with us.
Yes, now we can. Yeah, I can just share the URL with you. Yeah. Oh, cool. Okay. Help me, guys here.
It
Okay.
is an intern.
Huh? Yeah, it's just an intro. Yeah. Lots of
What
questions.
we do when business
That's
says,
exactly what I thought.
I need an app.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's exactly what I thought. Okay, will you provide the API key? Have already registered it? I have the API key. Do you have any specific endpoint in mind? For instance, are you planning to use the endpoints for popular movies? So let's try to frame answers to this. This mapping doesn't, I prefer to have something. Can you guys see at the bottom of the screen? Okay. I'm just keeping the numbers so that it remembers which you answer to what. Yes, I have the API. I have the API key. Yes, use specific endpoints. Like I said, I have no idea what the endpoints looks like. All right, let's go to the number 2. What is asking about to user preference sidebar with movie? Okay. Do you want the date range to filter movies by their release dates? What do you guys think? Okay. Should the genre selection allow multiple selections? I didn't even think about that. Multiple or single. That's good. We want multiple. Yes, filter by release date. Allow multiple selections. Recommendation algorithm, most popular movies. Are you looking for in specific ordering or filtering the by popularity? By popularity.
Be cool if it just gave you some text boxes right next to the questions.
Well,
Write your answer in there.
as it was rendering, it left the block characters. Did you notice that?
It was just completing the sentence, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You could see it at the end of the
Oh,
question.
yeah.
I thought
okay.
I thought it was
Yes,
going to
makes
provide
sense.
input
It's
for the region.
TV shows with movies. User interface. Okay. Is there a specific design or layout? That's why I asked you guys to. What's the most popular UI library you should use here?
Persons.
What? Developers, come on.
Yeah.
I said vanilla JavaScript already. I think it's looking for UI, so CSS library, any CSS framework.
Bootstrap.
I haven't been using.
You're looking for like a component library?
I was thinking you guys will just say Tailwind is very popular, right? Should we use Tailwind?
I would have said Tailwind, but
Okay, Bootstrap is fine. Bootstrap is fine.
it's love or hate.
Use Bootstrap. Tailwind has lots of cool stuff though.
Tailwind, that's right.
Yeah, use tail.
Tailwind, CSS library. Requirements. Do we have any responsive requirements for this app? Who wants to play your product manager? Do you have any responsive requirement?
Let's let that be a phase 2 enhancement.
All right, functionality scope rating say, okay, this is where it gets interesting. Remember I said we're gonna do some rating here, right? So it's asking where we want to save this rating. What kind of details you want to, what's the question? I don't know. What should be the rating functionality work? How should functionality scope? Oh, we'll say 5-star rating. Use 5-star star rating.
I'm thinking use a 10-star rating though.
Huh?
I am thinking use a 10-star rating though.
Oh, thank you. Use 10-star rating. And use local storage to save the result. Technology stack. 6 technology stack. Are you looking for a particular compatibility, a specific browser version?
Two more questions.
Huh?
In 5 years, 2 more questions.
Let it will not respond. See how it does. What are you looking for? Keep it vague. I mean, that's how we deal with that, right? So, are you looking for a particular compatibility? No. You mentioned no third-party comes disallowed. Since you mentioned no, plain JavaScript is fine, right? So, plain JavaScript.
It will also do custom elements, web components. I've had it do that before.
Yeah.
For front-end.
All right, so initialize application load tailwind CSS library, define global variables for API, kind of makes sense, all that. Create user interface header, sidebar, that's fine, main content, fetch movies, fetch movies and TV shows, you call API endpoint to get the most popular TV, that makes sense. Apply user preferences, that's also good. Display a 10-star rating for each movie and TV show, allow users to capture all the details, that's pretty cool. Handle saving result, allow users to save the movie TV store, provide a way to view the saved results, cool, that's kind of, I didn't ask for it, but show detailed information, allow users, responsiveness, error handling, handle any error that might occur. Please review this, you can let me know. Is this looks good, guys?
You're gonna say as Bill Gates.
Looks good.
What if you ask it like if it has any other questions or something like that?
Or suggestions.
Or yeah, like, are we missing anything?
We said to use Bootstrap.
This
Bootstrap,
looks
right? Not
good.
really-
He changed it.
This is, do you have any?
This is a question I have too. It's like, when do you stop asking it to ask questions? And it starts to get into this like hallucinating, situation where it's kind of like, it'll just keep asking you forever.
What I'm afraid of is that I'm gonna hit the context window limit.
Yeah.
So when that happens, it's gonna forget about all this and start giving stupid results. But it's a matter of time. So I believe we have covered all the necessary details. I just want to confirm a few final things. No, detailed information page. Do you want detailed information to appear as a pop-up and a new? Oh, that's interesting. Or some other format. No, I want in that on that site page, right? That's what we decided.
So once you tap on one of the movies or TV shows,
I think
it has a synopsis and it has cast members, it has other information. What do you want? Where do you want that to be displayed?
Display pop-up. How do you want the users to view the save results? Should there be a separate section tab? I don't know. Don't worry about it.
That's awesome.
Tailwind. Is there a specific version of Tailwind? Use the latest version.
For number 2, okay.
This for
I was gonna say, surprise me or make your best.
act as an architect.
You choose. English choice.
I'm impressed that it actually like went into that. You didn't even say generate. It remembered from the beginning yet.
All right, while it's generating, I don't have time to read this code, man. I'm just gonna copy paste. I'm gonna go to REPL it in here and gonna create new REPL. Now I will just use the HTML CSS one. Junk.
So have you tried having ChatGPT do this part for you as well?
Call the REPL API. Make a new
It
REPL.
can actually, I haven't, it can, I should have done that. Create a REPL form. Okay, since the code is entire app, that might be quite extensive. I'll break it down. Okay, yeah, sure. Can begin with HTML structure, initialize the app. Let's start with HTML and initialization. Okay, let's copy this HTML in here. See what is that looks like. All right, we got our title, man. Movie recommendation app. So something is missing. We need to copy a bunch of other stuff, right? So initialization app JS. So let's copy this app JS. We're gonna create a new file called app.js. Paste it in here. Thank you.
Yeah, that's it, Mike.
All right, so we got an app.js in here. Okay, cool. So yeah, this basic structure looks correct. Let's look at review the code a little bit here. Can you guys see this? It's too dark. I honestly don't know how to change this background color of this thing.
If you hit select all, does a temporal?
Oh, you know what? We can, because we have a Replit. We can just go to Replit and see what the heck is done. Okay, so we created kind of a basic structure, API key. Like it said, it figured out some endpoints in here to use. So what he's doing is that initialize app is fetching genres and popular movies and titles. Those are the functions looks like. These are empty, but we're going to populate on the next prompt. So what I want to do is that I'm going to use my API key in here. Change this. Let's continue. Yes. Any question as we do this? Any other thoughts, comments? Has anybody tried this kind of prompting before?
Not with the workflow and pseudocode. That's a really good tip.
Yeah. All right, so it's kind of populating a bunch of stuff on that app.js thing here.
I did have a question. One time I saw ChatGPT actually asked me some questions. So sometimes it says continue. There's a button click where it says stop generating. Just one time it had questions and they were relevant to what I was like prompting it about. And I was like, I've never seen that before. So it was essentially talking to itself because you could just click the button. It would ask questions. You click the button. Like you weren't prompting it. It was prompting itself. I've only seen that one time. And it's never happened since.
That's one.
It got self-aware, you mean?
I guess. I don't know.
All right, what's happening here? I'm kind of confused. Oh, so you give it function by function. That's crap. Could you please generate the app.js with
Have you done this with Code Interpreter, where you kind of give all the same instructions and just say, give me a download link, and it just gives you the files?
I haven't done it, no.
I wonder if that would work.
It would work.
You did.
It's only with Python, though, isn't it?
So anybody, it told me that's my thing, yeah.
It does Python, but it can generate, I mean, it uses a model underneath, right? So
Yeah.
it can still generate other code, but I think it will use Python to generate that code, or possibly it'll use a combination of them. That's what I'm wondering if it might be able to, because of the download functionality. Might be more. Instead of copy paste.
I've only done like CSVs and like stuff like that, like not like.
Yeah, I just listened to a podcast just on the way here that he uploaded a CSV, had it do some work, and then had it export as a, what's that little SQLite database. So it can export like other file formats. So I'm thinking like, maybe just say export as JavaScript. Might work.
You can have it zip up the files, but it's only as good as the files it generates in like the last iteration or something.
Yeah.
So like if it has commented out things that need filled in, that's what it downloads. Like you can tell it to generate a zip file of what it generated up there.
Oh,
So
gotcha. Yeah.
it doesn't work great, but it does work. It'll give you a link to click and download a zip file of it.
Nice.
Need to have it interact with GitHub.
Yeah.
Just commit the changes.
So I don't know about you guys. I could see any,
Because it has put that it's not fetched it,
I don't see any movies.
because it has not fetched it, is saying that you are fetching, you have to put on left hand side.
Please note that some functions such as rendering the genres in the sidebar or something or other.
It's doing function by function.
This is where you need IntelliJ to do compare with clipboard.
Rendering movies, okay, go back. You're saying something. What are you saying?
After the first prompt where it gave you all the code.
Yeah.
It said some disclaimer. Please note that some functions are left as placeholders.
So we are calling the initialize function, right?
If you go back to where you just had the second paragraph, it's what he was talking about.
Oh, sorry.
Right there.
Right there in the
It
second-
still gave you placeholders even though you asked for all the code.
So let's try this. So fetch popular movies, fetching, let's take this function in here. Where is that fetch popular movies?
Line 20.
30.
This in here.
So you need render genres too.
Yeah, render genres, where are you?
Was that the same function there? The one you just copied,
I didn't
you
notice.
pasted over.
I didn't notice that it was different.
Could you generate?
It might be up above
Oh, that function?
in the first set of prompts it gave you.
Command that.
Oh, right here. Thanks, bud. Initialize app. Fetch genres and then fetch popular movies and TV shows. We're not calling this render anywhere. We are not invoking the render.
That's all feelings go. It's an intern.
This is one of those times that I go back up to the top and like edit the one that was last, like
Yeah,
before we lost the thread.
yeah. This is the function, right? Fetch. Something wrong with that, I probably didn't prompt it correctly. I swear at this point it should work. We're definitely calling this, though, right? Yeah, we are.
Can you describe to ChatGPT what's showing on the screen and maybe it could suggest something?
Still not showing, still not showing anything.
Does Replit give you a console that you can look at? See?
Yeah, it does.
Oh, okay, so-
The console members. I don't know, man, it should work.
Sounds like you're getting support response.
Well, you probably went over the
Did you use
token
your-
context by now that it doesn't know what code it's running. Probably doesn't know what code we actually have.
I did it right. It must be your problem.
Works on my machine.
Do not use placeholders.
I should have already inputted the API key. Otherwise, I have to keep on investing. I should have done that. All right, initialize fetch popular movies. Fetch popular movies goes back, fetches the result, then goes render movies. Okay, this makes more sense to me. The heck was this?
Did you do the API key?
Oh, yeah.
This is the HTML.
Seems much sure this time.
Yeah. Yeah, what's my API key again? It's this. All right, man.
Someone would paste.
Whoa.
At least got the API.
Genre.
Can you like undo the HTML and see if it got the API keys there? Because the HTML got really, really short.
Yeah, what the heck is that with that HTML? Let's go to the HTML bit, little bit. Is Rippling as a history or something?
I'm not sure.
There you go. Okay, close it.
Is it clickable? No, it's not clickable. Okay, let's try to make at least one of the movie clickable. I don't know, maybe I should ask you guys. So what we should try to do here, because most of the functionality is missing. I swear it has done better
Just
job
like
last
an
time.
intern.
It's like an intern, yeah. The sidebar is completely missing with the genres. I don't know what happened to that.
Did you save the code from last time? Or if you have the last?
I'll just
kind of-
regenerate again. We'll ask the intern to do it again.
Is it possible that it has lost context? Somebody
Last
mentioned that.
history,
We went past the
you have
context
all
window.
I don't think we're there yet. Let's see. Okay, a couple of things are missing. No sidebar is showing up, and
Date and genre.
It says additional features like filtering by genre would require further reason.
two things missing. No sidebar is showing up with genres and.
I was gonna say, that's what I told you.
Please keep in mind, I made no promises.
We're doing a lot of demo, please, maybe it's empty.
I will stop here after this. I'm just gonna be sensitive about the time here. And I'll show you the actual app that I've generated. I swear I'll share the prompt screen with you. That is much better than this. We see some CSS coming in. It still looks small to me.
See, now it has the rendered genre.
Yeah.
didn't throw the CSS.
Oh, right there, that's the existing code, so make sure you don't copy paste the whole thing.
See, I gotta be smarter to kind of work with this. Goes back to the idea, yeah. So anything that, okay, one of the messages that I want to get out of this, all the stuff that we're doing is kind of needs a deep technical knowledge.
Yeah.
Assuming, and that means a non-technical guy will not be able to generate this. All the stuff that you hear on Twitter is not true. It's impossible to prompt it like this. All right, so yes, thank you. This is another side effect of the generated code. We tend to believe a lot when generates a code. So I was not even reading some of this stuff. I was just copy pasting it. I'm glad we experienced this together. Okay, all right. So I'm going to paste it in here. This additional methods.
So what's your developer experience feel like right about now?
So yeah. So once so initialize app. I think we already have it here. So I'm going to delete this.
That'd be probably worse and more like line 69, I saw it had existing code here too. You had 62, 60, 69.
Render movies. There's 2 render movies in here.
To see in the render movies, he put this new stuff.
You're right. Thank you.
It's not connected.
Sorry, what I'm missing.
It go up.
Yeah.
See here, this. It has line 28 and then line 36. It had that existing code. After that, it
Just wanted you to have.
had line 30.
Just add this line.
Yeah,
33.
line 33, it wanted you to add some. Maybe line 33 and 32.
Between 20 and 20. Got you. It's doing that. Stupid. There is an HTML in here that I need to copy as well.
You know, just copy code and run it from the internet directly.
Only if it comes from.
With Stack Overflow? Yeah, totally, man. You think I got here? All right, I'm getting bored. So it's update. What is happening here? Should I copy this?
Have you had the experience where like you almost abandon the current context
Yeah,
and they'll
I
start
was
like
talking about that.
copying
Oh,
code
yeah,
into
yeah,
another
yeah.
chat and then just going?
Yeah, I hit that many times.
Skip something.
All right, so it's kind of confusing here. I apologize, guys. So what I'm going to do here is I'll go to my repos. I'm going to show you the 10x meetup thing I've done, assuming I have some resources left. And I can share the prompting with you. This is I was able to generate using ChatGPT. I'm not kidding. I didn't write a single line of code. I can share this. This is what I was hoping to get at. Already hitting the free limit here. So that was kind of my goal to build this, and it's totally possible to do it. It's not there today. It's not, it's a zone. It's not in the zone today. What else? I'm kind of done here. This is exactly what I was going to show you. Any questions?
Yeah, maybe just show us the code.
For this one?
Yeah.
Yes.
Did the filters work on that one?
If this one is using React, maybe the one.
No. So when I was doing live, somebody says, hey, that generated HTML. So the code it generates is that actually manipulating HTML components in the JavaScript. Good old days when there was the framework. So somebody said, that's stupid. Let's make it a React component. So I took that generated HTML and JavaScript code and said, make it a React component. That's what it did.
So from a user perspective, how do you feel about an experience point trying to build an application like this?
I mean, the way I look at it, if this is a serious real world, somebody comes to me and tries to ask me to build this app, I will hate it. That's not stuff we want to do day to day. So in a way, I'm glad that GPT can do this for us. But in terms of using the Copilot, I think it's very jumpy to come up with solutions. And you know this, right? When we are trying to solve a problem, I might have a bunch of compilation error, but I'm trying to think through the entire flow, right? So it becomes annoying. So sometimes I switch it off. It's almost, I don't know how the best way to explain this is Grammarly. You're trying to form a paragraph you're thinking through and it keep prompting you a bunch of errors, that kind of stuff. But as with any technology, I think this thing's going to get better and better. There are platforms, products like GPT Engineer, where we can have single prompt to do everything here, not the interactive way of showing it.
I like I think where you're kind of hinting at is you can use it to explore and prototype kinds of things and try something out, and you can recognize that it's not working. You can switch to say, no, rewrite it this way for me. You know, those kinds of things that can help you get over the tedium of having to convert something in the imperative style to the functional style, for example.
And see, as a developer, our job is not just writing code. I think lots of people, non-techies, have this whole idea that all day what we do is bang on the keyboard. That's not what we do every day. So, so one thing I could say is that code generation is not a bottleneck anymore. What it is that, I mean, some of the best engineers I know would say what not to write in a code, right? That's where I think we add value, if that makes sense. Yeah, if you need somebody who's just gonna crank out code for you, yeah, this thing's gonna probably replace them.
So most of us in here are senior developers with lots of years under our belt.
Yeah.
But there are a couple of college students in here, and they're going to grow up in a totally different world. So as they're going through their education,
You need to get off my lawn.
do you have advice for them of how much or how little they should be using this throughout their education? Because you just talked about, a lot of us know what's not best code, as opposed to just assuming that what something like ChatGPT or some other AI gives us is valid code.
It's tricky.
I mean, it reminds me of the early days, right, of even, what's the tool IBM had back in the early 2000s, that Cafe or something like that?
Visual Age.
Visual Age. It was even before Visual Age. It generated all kinds of code. It was crap code.
I was gonna say, a lot of our job as coders is reading code, and editing code too.
But that's because we were taught to write code so that we can read code. But if you're a student and you just go to this and say, okay, now I'm going to start modifying it, you may not have the context.
That's a good point, to know what is good and what is not good. Yeah, that's a good point.
Or even why it's not, I mean, we knew to go look at the methods because we know how it compiles, right? We've had enough compiler errors. We know, okay, it's not working. Oh, that method has no body to it. But if you've not written hundreds of lines of code, even in school, how do you know how to start debugging that type of problem?
You
When you're
ask. To me, you ask the AI assistant to say, I don't understand this. Explain this to me.
No, finding
still don't
problems is
understand.
really good at it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can debug very quickly.
But it didn't. We just watched it. It
I
kept
think you get
giving you
slow.
empty methods.
And
Yeah, but
Yeah,
next
big-
frequency to saying that, I have no.
yeah. So it's, I mean, most of it my fault. I was not properly reading it. Going back to, it gave me enough instructions. Hey,
So
this is empty. This is,
In college, should we be teaching them how to write the prompts instead of how to write the code?
Yeah.
I think both.
And architecting too, like what's good architecture look like? Because I don't think it's at that level yet. Like it can write code, but like it's not going to tell you, use dependency injection here or use this coding pattern.
Right.
It'll just give you code.
It's not dry.
Yeah.
You have so many duplicates.
Well, I beg to differ. It will. It knows about design patterns and everything. That's all. This can do stuff. I'm not worried about that. I'm more worried about it is that not only that, most of this tool, forget about this. Most of this tool is going to be training on your code base. GitHub Copilot is not just giving you patterns. It's going to recommend patterns that see in your code base. The challenge here is you might be evolving out of that pattern, saying that was crap, didn't work for me. That's where things get tricky. Unlearning is difficult here. Once it learns, it's going to keep recommending you that, even though, no, that's not what we want.
That's a problem for regular developers too. You say, well, it was like this way over here, so I just copied it over here and I modified it. Right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Look at that
Not
class.
Look at
We
that
were doing it, just copy paste that. It will do that flawlessly for you.
Well,
It's really good at that.
We'll get to
Pattern
the point
recognition.
where it's like, okay, on this section of code you recommended to me, how many issues of all the GitHub repos that you've analyzed, where are the issues?
Yeah.
What were pull requests submitted for this section of code? And
Where are the hotspots?
exactly.
Yeah. I want to see it do pull code.
I'm trying to figure out why we even need code. It's for us to understand what's going on. If English is our programming language, why does it even matter what language it's written in? Couldn't it be assembly? And then you're thinking of what's your unit of compute? I could write a whole application in curl commands, like bash.
Like you can generate it, but at some point in time, there's going to have to be a modification.
No. If somebody, I agree with Chris on this. There is leaky abstraction. Some point you got to roll your stick, figure out why the heck is not giving me this result.
Yeah, and right now a human has to help work through that. To get to a point.
Till the
Certain
point
things you
if it
don't
starts
need
figuring
to.
that out. Yeah.
Yeah, but for basic CRUD type applications.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, and I'm willing to bet that probably 80% of the applications all basic CRUD.
That's where my head at. 80% of the, don't take me rude here, I'll be very honest, 80% of the stuff that we do is not that complicated.
No, it's not.
It's not that.
Auth is probably the hardest part.
So take data, turn to JSON and send it back. Good.
Still is their problem.
You had a question first, sorry.
I kind of tying back to what you should teach in college. For the first one that you had kind of run, because you have like technical experience, you could probably go in and debug it and figure out what it was that ChatGPT was doing wrong.
Yeah.
If you did have somebody who didn't have any experience whatsoever, would there be a point that you could optimize the request to an extent that they would never even need to touch the code? And is that a drawback of the request being made, or is that a drawback of GPT?
So is there an intersection between this and no code, no code?
Yeah, no, I never, so I don't think this is replacing developers. Going back to that point, I think we're going to coexist for a while till AGI comes in or something. I don't know. Well, future is going to be weird. But for the time being, I feel like we are going to coexist. So you should learn how to program. And that's what I said in the beginning. There will be more demands for that. But I would use these tools, assuming this is just baby, a year old, going to figure this tool's going to get better and better. I would even argue that this tool's going to start learning about good code and recommending, usually most of the time recommending good patterns.
I'm trying to agree with you here that if you take it slow, like we tell it to take it slow, if we take it slow and we read and we say, what's this trying to do here? Then I think that could work for us.
I was rushing. You're absolutely right. If I read the instructions correctly, I would have probably get here.
And even the mechanics, if you say, do this against this repository.
Yeah.
And make these changes as commits.
Yeah.
So I've seen it like if you use it to generate unit tests, and then that's like a safe way of.
Yeah.
So like this I think is like a very ambitious thing which we started.
Yes.
And using the
Yes,
prompt.
that's pretty good. I think I can go sell this product right now.
Tell you honestly, I'm very impressed. I did not think it will look at this much professional looking. Almost, good code in my opinion.
Yeah.
I was thinking maybe I
The
was
code
looking
is
at
horrible.
that's different. That's fine.
But that's why it's a trade-off, right? Does it
Exactly.
really matter in this case, right? One way to think about this is that maybe a semi-technical, I'm gonna say something that so if I'm exploring something and general idea, if a semi-technical product manager with a bit of prompting can build something to quickly prototype and
Yes.
figure out, is this it? This is a great way to.
Yeah.
But is this code maintainable? I don't think so.
You are right. It maybe, over the period it evolves and, probably.
Yeah, I mean, then you get lots of prompts. For an example, we took crappy thing and started it to React components. I mean, you have to slowly do that stuff.
I don't know, the BDD, behavioral driven development, like even then all the cucumber, like maybe standardize the, even though it's NLP, if you come up with the strict format, then it'll be precise. Precise the requirement is, precise the code will be, right?
Yeah.
So I think, again, requirements engineering, how do you tell the ChatGPT to get most out of it,
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Going back to that, I think having a clear kind of idea, sometimes he will not. That's why we went through the iterative one, right?
Yeah.
So if you're playing with this, then you can, I don't like this. What will it look like if we do this way?
Right.
Becomes easier. Can I
So
give
one
him
thing
he
you
was,
can put, document this code for, then it will push up.
yeah. Oh, I saw one of the co-founder of OpenAI did something which is amazing. He took a code and say, generated poetry out of it, poem.
Oh.
He said this beautiful because now it started explaining the code as a poem to give you a clear idea what's actually happening in that component. Maybe you should try that instead of documentation. Yes.
I had a couple comments. One is that, regardless of the quality code that it put out, it did in fact solve a problem in this scenario. And I think that will most definitely improve once we've actually solved the problem. But throughout all of the AI that have actually come out to date, one of the biggest problems that I've seen is that its capacity for long-term memory. At some point, like in this case, we have I forget what it's called, is that context window. Once we run out, there's obvious problems that come in because it's, quote, forgot something.
Yeah.
And then so there's that. And to a point, we're asking it to do a lot, even in this application. So,
Yeah, it's a lot of things.
So even then, asking it, keeping in mind the scope of what we're actually doing is kind of important, just because because from my experience, just if we give it all of this noise, which may be in this case, the rest of the application, it may have problems just sorting through that. Whereas, we may, in a different problem domain, if we gave it a legacy application and asked it, hey, how is this application solving this problem, it might be able to just go right to it and be like, and just straight walk through. So, I mean, even then, going back to like you were saying, coexisting with AI, we might be going around the whole problem the wrong way, because I'm trying to get it to code instead of saying, well, it's kind of the world's most intelligent search tool that I could fit on a cell phone.
Yeah. So I don't think those days are far off where I'll be talking to them. Crazy, but hear me out here. I'm going to talk to my code base, have a conversation. Right? I mean, I think that's totally possible. Hey, I want to build this. Here is some of the issues or challenges I have. This is the ticket I'm written. Let's have a conversation. What's happening through that? And it can.
That's where I've been seeing this going too. I'm sure you've all seen like the developers are going to be gone in 5 years. Mario Stock said that he's the guy who does what's the open version of it? It doesn't matter. But the way that I see it, it's not that developers are going away. They're just going to change a little bit. They're going to be more on the requirement side to say what do we want it to do and how do we want to architect it. And then on the other side saying like, do a good job, like almost like reviewing the code.
that it writes out, but it's going to be less of that. This kind of just like generating.
So it goes back to, it's going to sound very cheesy, but it goes back to what makes us human, right? If your job, always give example. If your job is to just look at this Jira ticket, generate a code and write it down, maybe that's not real. If your job involves interacting with product managers, figure out what's the requirement like, how should we be building this? What's the business value? Then yeah, your job is secure. That makes sense.
How about the migration from mainframe applications to web applications?
I just a prompt, man. Just kept telling.
Nationwide would love it.
I've actually been using it to convert like a classic ASP over to Node.js, and
It does a very
well.
good translation, yeah.
And that's kind of where I was getting with if language is your programming language now, you could actually output whatever language you want because it was written in English, and you could output JavaScript, or you could output Java or Python or whatever, but it's like that, the language is your base. You can generate whatever programming language you want from it.
Here is the open, the chat conversation that generated this. I pasted in the meetup here.
Actually, going off of what you said, we might even be able to then translate a little bit from the problems that things like Google Translate have and their experience in like the language teaching world, where Google Translate operates, similarly on some of these ideas where it's like, oh, from going from one language to another. But you'll see in at least spoken languages that sometimes things just don't translate well. And we may be suffering from problems like that when we're going just from English to Java, that it just hasn't, it hasn't figured that out yet. Or there may be a pattern that's evolving that's just not consistent.
So I've done this. This is a great point, guys. This is a very, really good point. So so obviously this is not my suit. I'm not really good at this stuff. That's why I was struggling with JavaScript, but I'm really good at Scala, for an example. So I've done prompts like this. Hey, I'm a Scala expert. I know exactly Scala programming language. Explain me how functional programming works in Node or JavaScript. Then it uses that context of what Scala looks like and uses that to explain. It's mind-boggling. It's amazing. Yeah. I mean, you cannot imagine what. This map is like that flat map there. I get it totally.
Yeah, but even if we're doing the same thing, if we're just talking about like this whole idea of language translation, we're generalizing it to language translation. Even when we talk about spoken languages, going from like English to German, despite 20 years of Google trying to solve this problem, they still can't translate correctly.
Yeah.
And I don't see anything that's stopping us from having the same problem. And I mean, it may sometimes.
So you'll not be able to. So what's your question? You don't think?
It's the point is the saying is that sometimes it may not. There may be an underlying problem, but we're not really capable of doing a good translation. It can get you 90% of the way there, but that last 10%, a real language expert might say, okay, that right there, that's wrong.
Yeah.
But there's no other domain that has ever solved that problem. In fact, we have evidence that in other applications that.
So you're saying that the quality of the data that is trained on is not good.
Yeah.
Yes, probably, and I think when we don't like doing, as humans, we don't like doing repetitive stuff, right?
Yeah.
So, and this is where I think this should be more. Machines don't mind, well, they don't have mind to mind. So,
yeah.
So, trying, okay, write this method, if I have to, suppose I want to write this, okay, write it in functional way, write it like this way, write it like very abstract way, and do it I want to do it 20 different ways, and then choose one from them. What is the best? I will decide what is going to be the best. You don't tell me, but help me write it 20 different times.
Yeah.
If I will never do it because after 2 or 3 times I'm bored already.
Right.
This doesn't interest me, but this is where I think we can get the most value.
Yeah, totally.
Is throwing things away. And when you are writing your own code, you get attached to it.
Yeah.
So, Yeah, I don't, probably you have that problem. as well.
Totally, I get
So
it.
if I've written something like it's hard for me to go and just throw it away, just like, already just because I own it, I wrote it, there is already attachment built. Here, I don't see any attachment being building. Just like, okay, no, I don't like it, throw it. Okay, this makes sense. Okay, I'll use it.
Yeah.
So something like that, I think this is where it can help. And coming back to your point on the translation, like, between one language to another language, and that's where, like any spoken language, any language, there is a kind of a backstory built into it. So that's where your backstory is different than my backstory, and that's where the problem to translation comes. And in case of like spoken languages, that is the culture or the history is kind of built into your language.
Definition and connotation.
Right. So which is very different for like different person, and that's where because you have to go back to like to all the traverse all the context, understand all, then only you can translate is perfect. And so I think whether programming languages, when you are translating from like, okay, now spoken English to programming language, from one programming language to another programming language, is there a kind of a the developer space, but something like divide between the space and like back, the tab, that itself has so much of like what you call history built onto it, right? So the programmers who developed the actual programs, they came from different backgrounds and cultures, so they had like different preconceived. It doesn't make sense for me to write a map this way. It should be a single line. I should not have to go and so all the context has been built in. So again, I think that is all going to come into this picture where you are going to translate from one thing to other thing. All that, like the history kind of, the baggage kind of that's been built into it. That is all going to come into picture, and I think I don't know how we'll reconcile on that, but that's my thought.
I'm thinking of some parallels with what you're saying. I think there, like with coding in general, right? So I'm not old enough probably to. Well, maybe I am to know before like coding or programming paradigms, things existed, and it was kind of the Wild West. It was on mainframes, and it was just hideous and spaghetti code and go-to-line and all this stuff. And over time, over the last 20, 30 years, we got better, and we came up with patterns and things like that. And now we're almost like starting our wandering in the woods again. Like, all right, now we have to go with this new thing that's going to change the world in the next 5 to 10 years. Thank you for being here to say, hey, you can at least start to say, set some context, set some parameters around it, tell it to go slow, do these things. And we can start to uncover and reveal these patterns that we can use with this tool now to get out good output.
Yeah. So let me point out that on GitHub right now, there's 245 repositories that have movie recommendation and TMDB API in it. So this is a solved problem.
Yes.
The applications I write don't exist.
Yeah. But the building blocks are done before, though, right?
It's not a known API. It's an internal thing that is only done poorly. And they ask for requirements that I've never seen in applications for, and the ability to scale like I don't see coming out of the box. So I still think there's a lot of edge cases that we get too excited about.
So it's 80-20, right? It's 80-20. You're talking about that there are cases of stuff that we're going to need that haven't built yet that you will help. But 80% of the stuff that we do is kind of done before.
Well, in my career, every 5 years, I've started using technologies that didn't exist 5 years earlier too. Yeah. And that's going to keep happening. And then these LLMs don't have that context to bring forward.
But Chris, to add to your question, or maybe not a counter. So any programming we do, and if this is like we take this as okay, I give an input, I am expecting an output, right? Your bigger problem, if I break it down like component, this is the input that is it should expect. This is the output I'm expecting. This is the input that you should expect. This is the output like I'm expecting. So if I break it down, how much ever bigger the problem is,
I get that.
make it small pieces. Now I need to understand the Lego pieces, how they are going to fit where. But I think this would help me agree on that.
I agree. I can say, hey, I need this function to do this, and can generate this function, and I can say, I need another function to do this. I'm just saying, this is a little bit of a parlor trick in that this is a solved problem.
Yeah.
That there's a lot of context and details to generate what we just did.
But I was running in public, but if I take Tabmine or GitHub Copilot and run on your code base, it will know all the APIs for you. It will generate code using your internal APIs.
Not disagreeing, but I have to call some legacy mainframe system.
Yeah,
So
it's all about pattern recognition. If you've seen that pattern before, it will recommend that pattern to you. If you have invoked that API somewhere in a code base, it knows about it.
At some point, you have to be the first one to do that.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I'm not. So again, coexist. We are not replacing developers.
Even then, how many good ways are there to call a REST API?
Now you're just assuming there's REST APIs. I've had to deal with lots of different types of APIs.
Right. You have to make
How many good ways are there to? How many?
RPC, SOAP, REST, maybe 5 or 6, handful.
How unique could the solution be that nothing has ever done, that nobody has ever done anything like it?
Well, I mean, a new piece of hardware could come out just to play devil's advocate.
Yeah, so,
right.
At one point in time, there were cell phones that you could write applications for. And it was Java ME, and then it was Objective-C, and then it was Swift.
But
so those things are always going to be evolved.
I do think.
I don't want to keep devolving into this. I just want to make sure.
Yes, we put it in. It's amazing. There are 10% of application. Yes, this will not be useful. But for 90% is there.
Yeah. So I think
I don't. Is it more useful though? Is it more useful? That's the question, right? Because you look like, I'm sorry, anybody who's a business developer, most of what you write is a Kindle Java application with Spring Boot and doing prep. Okay. Most of that code you shouldn't be writing in the first place because you should be using Lombok. Okay. So I just got rid of a third of the code base right there. Okay. And then the rest of it follows a very standard pattern of controller, service, data access layer. The only thing this should do is deal with translation of the protocol. Protocol should never leak down into the here. So here's, what does this thing actually do if it's a CRUD application? Nothing. All it does is immediately basically turn around and delegate down to the service layer or your data access layer, which puts it in the database. All that code I can generate. So this to me is just another user interface.
I feel that, like this example, that we have the same ingredients.
Yes, good.
We have the same ingredients. It's just that the recipe is changing every 5 or 10 years, and also the way we serve that recipe is also.
Can we close it? Oh, no.
Yeah, we can wrap this up. We can have a conversation.
I don't agree with the statement you said.
What? How's it?
Do you use IDE to code?
Do I use an IDE?
Yeah.
He uses PowerPoint.
I'm sorry. No, I'm a real. I'm a real engineer. I use VI. Yes.
So to answer your question is yes, it makes me faster. Speed, tremendous benefit. Understand if once it knows about the code base, the recommendation it gives, the time I have to spend to look things up, this are all speed. So the same metaphor, this is smart IDE. Instead of just recommending API methods, it's recommending entire method for me.
Right. So part of what I look at is how's this better than JHipster? Right. I get into JHipster.
That didn't work. This actually works.
That works, right? But you see my point. I can spit out an entire working application in a matter of minutes.
So you're judging it too based on, yes, there are some cases it doesn't work, but you do see the path that this is going to get better and better. You see that. That's what I'm that's my only point here. Yes, there are lots of shortcomings in this too, but the goal here is that let's start getting used to this stuff because
Oh,
this
yeah,
is
I
going to be
completely agree with
reality.
that.
I'll also say that's a very specialized tool, right? And this can do that plus translate it to Python or translate it to Arabic or, lots of different other things that are orthogonal to that very specific task.
Yeah, he said it right. I mean, last he said it right. I mean, I know you're invoking, but there are only 5 ways to invoke an API, and it knows all the ways. And where the things comes in is that it's not as it gets smarter, it's going to be the recommending the way that it has seen I've been using it. So imagine all these tools are not understanding your code base, it's actually learning your style as well. So it knows what you look for, what you accept. When you reject some of the recommendation, it's learning from this.
Right.
That's all I'm going.
And one thing which hasn't changed in all this probably throughout all the years of computing is still it is like input processing output. That's
still zeros and ones, right?
Yeah, still zeros and ones, and still like the CRUD operations. Like that's the. So at the end of the day, no matter what problem we are solving, as long as we have to know what the input is going to be. I don't care about the processing. If I say
you're still steering the ship. So
right.
Yeah.
So once we are clear on the input and the output, and just divide and conquer bigger problem, break it down till a point you can't break it down any further, and then take the smaller unit. Say like I need this is the input. Do this whatever, write the processing in this language or whatever, and then this is the output I'm expecting. Then I can improve on it. Like this method needs to be it should be able to handle like multi-threading. This is that it needs to be scalable. So we can build out on that. We can do all the all the things that we want.
Yeah.
As long as we at the end of the day we know how to put the pieces of the Lego together. It can build the Legos for us. We can.